Ultimately, the decisions that are made, it's up to Albertans and the governments that they elect to make decisions. But in this case, we've got a government that is actually lying to Albertans in order to push a decision.
Scientists are being muzzled because I was the lead in an investigation by Teck Resources into the coal deposits in Crow's Nest area. My conclusion was, don't touch this Crow's Nest area coals. They are just not economically viable. The Japanese walked away. What I presented at the AER, collapsing coal quality and value, Teck stayed out. Otherwise, why didn't Teck take this fantastic opportunity? It wasn't there. Riversdale Benga moved to Alberta. They enticed Hancock Mining, Ms. Reinhardt, to buy this Rossi project for $700 million. What Reinhardt is interested in is getting her $700 million back. I don't think she really is interested in mining it, or only the first few years, and then sell it to what they call a sophisticated investor. That's what I see happening.
The job of the scientists is to provide information that will inform Albertans.
It's safe to say that Albertans have lost faith.
My fears have come true in spades. This paper we've got in review now, it was held up. They refused to allow it to be submitted by Alberta environment scientists. And I basically said, well, you know what? I'll submit it. There's nothing you can do because you can't fire me.
What does this paper on fish tell us?
What it says is even though coal mining in the Crow's Nest shut down like 40 years ago, there's still significant selenium that's pumping downstream into Crow's Nest Lake. The continued inputs of selenium from these old coal mine sites have resulted in selenium in the fish that live in Crow's Nest Lake being so high that the government has quietly put on a consumption advisory for fish from Crow's Nest Lake. And this is 40 years after the mines closed. Downstream of the coal mines in Upper McLeod, they saw up to 93% declines in trout populations because of selenium and other chemicals released from coal mining.
Dr. Colin Cook has been an author of 4 studies commissioned by the government. He works for the government. 2 of them are on air quality and 2 of them are on water quality. And all 4 of them are very damning and don't support mining at all. And 2 town hall meetings I've been to in the last few months, and most recently in Fort McLeod, one of the most egregious things that happened all night, in my opinion, when someone asked about this latest study, and both the Premier and Minister Schultz continued to talk about drinking water safety. Total deflection, because it has nothing to do with that study. The study has to do with the fact that the selenium levels in the tissues of the fish in Crow's Nest Lake are so high that the government has released a warning not to eat the fish. And to me, that seems borderline negligent. Media outlets have tried to talk to this doctor, Cook, who has been the author of these studies. And there's a quote from Rebecca Schultz saying, he's not a professional spokesperson, he's a professional scientist, which says to me, a professional scientist would stand behind the mic and tell us the truth about the studies and interpret them for us, as opposed to a professional spokesman who will spin it however they want to spin it.
It's one thing to have engineers and scientists talking about the impacts, but ultimately the people impacted are the ones that have the most to lose. Any coal mine in the headwaters of Crow's Nest is going to absolutely have to have high priority water rights, because these are really water intensive operations. What will be the effects of downstream users and other water rights holders?
One expert saying that this is going to create a hell of a mess, and it's indisputable, and it's already created a hell of a mess, and it's going to take a whole bunch of our water and potentially ruin what's left for the people downstream. And then we've got another expert saying the economics don't add up. So what the hell are we doing here?
If there's not enough water currently, then a mine will just make things worse and affect all kinds of agriculture downstream from a volume standpoint, let alone if that water is contaminated.
It can only have a negative effect downstream in terms of water users and ag. The water quality will be lower and the amount of water will be lower. I mean, the South Saskatchewan River Basin, from what I understand, is already over-allocated in terms of water rights. And so once you roll climate change and warming and declining snowpacks and drought on top of all of this, adding coal mines into these really water-sensitive regions is insanity.
People talk about cleaning the water and treating it to get the selenium out, and they're having minor successes, but nowhere near getting it to the levels where it's safe for aquatic life. The thing that's really a threat to me, in my opinion, is the groundwater under our feet. In the Elk Valley, Fernie and Sparwood both had their municipal water wells contaminated to the point where they couldn't use them and had to haul water. Once the selenium leaches into the groundwater beneath our feet, there's no possible way to get rid of that.
Teck spent $1.5 billion and they could not really solve it. They can treat, like Corb says, the rivers and runoff, but you can never catch all runoff. And once it's in the groundwater, well, yeah, you have to replace the whole water reservoir under your feet. Forget it.
Okay, let's pretend the company can treat the water, but I mean, when the coal mine closes in either 4 years or 24 years, who pays for it then? You can bet it's not going to be Gina Reinhardt and her companies in Australia that are going to be paying for this extremely expensive cost of treating water for decades. I mean, if Teck spent over $1 billion and can't solve the problem, what are the chances that a company's going to provide that kind of money after it has stopped operating? It's certain that there will be long-term legacy problems with contamination because that happens. But I mean, Albertans are no stranger to abandoned infrastructure when a resource disappears or the prices drop and the company folds and walks away or sells them all to a shell company for $1 or whatever.
The royalties, they only have to pay if they recouped enough capital on their investment. So first they pay nearly nothing. I also think that the $14 billion they claim, of which $4 billion is grassy, they are just based not only on the cost they made just now, but on the fictitious value of the coal that is there, but really isn't there. And they've got themselves into a very tight spot. And that's exactly the game these companies specialize in. So it's not about mining the coal, it's just by getting the money, by suing the government, to be very blunt.
In recent years, coal royalties for Alberta annually have been less than $10 million. That's million with an M. If people are thinking coal is going to be like oil or gas, they're completely dreaming. There is basically little to no value provincially.
And even if the royalties were good, none of it's going to add up to the cleanup costs down the line that our kids are going to pay for.
It doesn't seem to make sense on an economical front. It doesn't seem to make sense on a political front. What on earth?
These coal mines, they don't have permits to open and build coal mines. Nothing has been approved. They haven't gone through hearings. So the approval is absolutely not certain. And so for them to be successful in a lawsuit that would allow them to recover all future lost profit, they would have to demonstrate a certainty that they would make that profit. And if they don't even have an approval for a mine yet, it's ridiculous to say that is a certainty.
In the politically divided times we live in, it's very easy to fall into the trap of anything one side says is a win or a lose for the other side. For the conservative voters, I don't care who you vote for. It's a democracy. I have no problem with you voting for the UCP, but it's also okay to point out when your own side has made a mistake. And they've made a big mistake on coal. And if you look into it, I think you'll realize it. So I would say everyone should use their critical thinking and take a really close look at this and tell the government, no matter what side you're on, that this is a bad idea.